Hello, folks. Greg Gilbert, host of Python's Paradise, and continuing on with film reviews and experience of 1996, my first year as a film critic. And we're over halfway through the year. We're now entering July 1996, the month I turned 24 in that year. Boy, it seems so long ago, because as I'm recording this, I'm now 51. But as I've been saying all along, I'm choosing. I think I've reviewed about 110 films that year, but I'm only picking 5 per month. So it'll be 60 in the year. Because you run into this situation where you forget a lot of films with Netflix and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff I want to see that are limited release in theaters, and we don't get them. And I'm like, well, and I don't have Netflix, but one thing I do want to do is I want to pick 5 films each month to talk about. But I want to pick my 5 most anticipated films and talk about what my thoughts were after seeing them. So that way I'm not doing a top 5, because then it's all positive reviews. And sometimes films just really disappoint you. So as we go into July 1996, the 5 films I am going to talk about are Harriet the Spy with a very young Michelle Trachtenberg and Rosie O'Donnell. Multiplicity with Michael Keaton and Andy McDowell. The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox and Dee Wallace. Trainspotting with Ewan McGregor and Robert Carlyle. And Kingpin with Woody Harrelson and Randy Quaid. Now, I always start at the bottom and work my way up, So, my rating system is A+ to F. You get in the A's, your film is excellent. You're in the B's, your film is flawed, but it's entertaining. It's still worthwhile seeing. A C pretty much means you're a die-hard actor or genre or whatever. D pretty much means don't see it. And an F, well, you're fucked. So here's the thing with July. The 5 films I picked, this was a really good month, because my worst film of the month is actually a C+. A C+ to me is fair, I mean, a C+ is not great, but jeepers, if that's your lowest, you had a good month, unless everything's a C+. And that grade goes to Multiplicity. That is the weakest of the 5 I'm going to talk about, and really, it's a C+. That wouldn't even land that on the worst of the year. And quite frankly, there's a lot about Multiplicity I liked, but there's a lot I didn't care for, I did the fact it was very repetitious. Roger Ebert brought some points up in his review of it that I thought were very good points. Like, what if one of the clones was gay? What if one of the clones was mean? What if one of the clones wanted to go public? Roger Ebert brought up some interesting points that might have made this a much better film. I also didn't care for the ending of the film, where the wife really didn't know what was going on, But it had a great idea behind it. Michael Keaton plays an overworked guy who's pretty much firing at all ends, and it's stressing him out. And he runs into this guy, Harris Yulin, who has this little project where he can clone people so that they have more time for the leisure time. And I guess the central plot is that he gets cloned, and his first clone is a real go-getter, high energy, and just a dominant fellow, you know. Michael Keaton seems to have fun with the role. Then he clones himself again when things still get worked, and the next clone is overly sensitive, which really, you get some great moments with Andy McDowell as his wife. Just these bizarre expressions in her eyes as he's just going over packaging a sandwich for lunch, you know. And then there's a clone of a clone, where the next Michael Keaton is a little off in the head, you know. Michael Keaton appears to be having a great time with us. This film was directed by Harold Ramis. Not one of his best films, but not his worst either, you know. Like, Multiplicity is a great idea. It's just, it's executed too much like a sitcom, and I think there was potential to go deeper with this theme. But it's a fun little movie. I'm not going to bury it. Like I said, a C+ is, it's fair, you know, so it's above average, definitely. So, if you're a big Michael Keaton fan, this is a great showcase for his talent, you know. One of the things I remember most about this movie, because one of the things I used to love to sneak into the theater in my knapsack was yogurt. I get these nice big things of yogurt. And I remember the yogurt I snuck into that theater, and it was the first time I'd ever snuck a yogurt into the theater, as far as I can remember. And it was Multiplicity. And it was fruit cocktail, which means it had grapes, it had pineapple, it had what have you. It had a lot of different types of fruit in it. And it's interesting because they quit selling those for some weird reason. Now I pretty much go with either cherry or peach or any one of the fruit yogurts. I'm a yogurt person. I love yogurt. But I remember taking a fruit cocktail yogurt into the theater to watch that. And I had fun with the movie, but I wish that it was a little tighter than it was in terms of its themes. I think it could have been more, but I give it a C+. It's, you know, if you're a big Michael Keaton fan, you'll have fun with this. So there you go. Now, the other 4 on this list are all great movies. I got 2 that got an A- on here. And I'm going to talk about those 2 films next. And I'll go by preference here. So I'd say the one that I'll talk about the least preference, even though I like both films, The Frighteners. The Frighteners gets an A-. I'm going to be honest, when I first saw The Frighteners, I actually gave it a negative review. But it's one of those films, like with The Cable Guy, which got a C, and The Craft, which you got a B+. If you look back on my thoughts on those in previous episodes here. The interesting thing with those is they gained a cult following. Well, The Frighteners is one of those films that gained a cult following. And I kind of revisited it, you know? Because I was like, what did I not like about it in the first place, you know? Like, I don't need to revisit Pearl Harbor to know that it's a shit movie. I think I'm spot on with that movie. The Frighteners I had to take a look at again. And I gave it a bit of a reappraisal. And it's up to an A-. And sometimes people do that, you know? And it's like they'll change their mind about something. And The Frighteners is one that I have. You got Michael J. Fox playing kind of a Ghostbuster kind of character who has friends who are ghosts who haunt these places, and he goes in and pretends to vanquish them and gets money for it. Problem is, he starts to see numbers on people's foreheads that nobody else can see, and that indicates that they're going to die. And there's a serial killer that went on death row, whose spirit comes back to avenge these against these people. And Fox now has to put a stop to it. Michael J. Fox, of course, he was stricken with Parkinson's, and I don't know how far along he was at this point, but he appears to be having fun. This was one of the last screen roles he had. I know he appeared in Mars Attacks that year as well, but I mean, Michael J. Fox is like a staple of the '80s, you know, and so it's always nice to see him. I wish he wasn't stricken with this fucking illness, you know, but he's been quite a component in raising money for Parkinson's, and God bless him for it. But he appears to be having a lot of fun as this Ghostbuster, who has to take some massive chances and some very tense sequences in order to bring this killer out. I've interviewed Dee Wallace a couple of times, and of course she's involved in 13 Fanboy, which I'm a co-producer on. Dee Wallace, of course, steals every scene she's in as the girlfriend of the killer, who's kind of locked away in her home by her mom. And we don't know whether she's compliant or if she's a victim or what the story is. But Dee is wonderful in this movie, I gotta say, you know. I never seen this level of intensity out of her since the ending of The Howling. But I love her in it. And, you know, you got the ghosts that are played by various different actors, you know, yeah, I give the movie an A-. It's not Ghostbusters, nowhere near as good as Ghostbusters, but it's certainly better than fucking Ghostbusters 2. So, an A-. The visual effects, like Peter Jackson's directed, are fine, you know. Visually, the film is great to look at. And the characters are all quirky and fun. Check out The Frighteners. The other film I wish to talk about, which actually came out earlier in the year in the UK, but we in the United States got it in July, is Trainspotting. We didn't get that in our theater. I actually saw Trainspotting at a special midnight screening at our theater, and it was packed. And I had not seen it at that point, so I was happy to go into this, and I had no idea what I was in for. And I have freaking blast with it. I like films that are experimental and bring me an adventure I'm not prepared for, and that's the case with Trainspotting. You got Ewan McGregor, who's actually you got a group of friends who are totally heavily into drugs and how it affects them. Ewan McGregor, of course, is loved by his mother and father, but they're kind of pissed that he's doing drugs, and you got a moment, such a highlight moment in the film, where he sticks some pills up his ass to hide them, and he has indigestion, and he goes into what they call the filthiest toilet in Scotland, and he goes in and he takes a shit, and he realizes at the last moment those pills were up his ass. So you got this gross, yet visually enticing scene where he's rooting through the shitty toilet water, and he goes into the toilet, and you just see his feet twirling around, and he's swimming through this looks like ocean area, and he grabs those pills at the bottom, and then you see him popping out of the toilet. It's so fucking gross, but at the same token, hilarious. Because it showcases the desperation drug addicts have. And Ewan McGregor, he's got another fantastic moment in this film where his parents lock him in his room so he can get clean. And of course, getting clean involves a lot of painstaking experiences. And he's hallucinating. He sees like a baby crawling on his ceiling who's reference to The Exorcist. The baby's head turns all the way around. And you got various characters throughout the movie that are appearing to him in there. I love watching McDonald. What's her first name? I'm not getting her name here. I'm sorry. Her last name's McDonald, sitting at the end of his bed cross-legged, and she's like singing, and you see the voice kind of trails off as she disappears, and Robert Carlyle appearing under the sheets, and you got Spud there sitting with the shackles on his. I enjoy that sequence and the music, that techno music playing as it's going on. You got a great cast in this movie. I remember Robert Carlyle, because it's so weird. He went from this angry individual to playing such a timid guy and likable guy in The Full Monty. It shows what tremendous range he has as an actor, you know. And of course, here he plays Begbie, and he beats the piss out of a lot of people, and his group of friends are threatened by him, and he has this scheme where they can get a lot of money selling baking soda or something instead of drugs. And you got I don't have the actors' names right in front of me. Spud, it was Ewan Bremner. He's hilarious. He's in a sequence where he's at a nightclub and he goes home with this girl. And this sequence here was so gross, but I laughed my fucking ass off. He wakes up in this room. He doesn't recognize where he is. He's stoned out of his mind the night before. And the room is like pink. And the bed he's in is pink. And he realizes he's very uncomfortable. And he puts his hand down under the sheets that come up. And it's all covered in shit. He shit the bed. So he's gathering up the sheets, and he's trying to go out through the kitchen, and there all the family, this woman and her family are sitting around the kitchen having breakfast, and he's seeing like the sausage and beans. That's not exactly gelling well with his mentality. But the woman's mother gets up and wants to take his sheets because he said he had a bit of an accident, and they think he ejaculated, a wet dream. No. And he says, no, I'm going to take the sheet. I'm going to go. And the mom's like insistent. She goes, I'll take it out of my sheets, my house. Finally, she tears the sheets away from Spud, and shit flies all over everybody. It's so fucking gross, and yet so fucking funny. I remember first time seeing that, I was like, this is gross. This is right up there at the toilet, swimming in the toilet. But man, it is fucking funny. It's Kelly MacDonald. That's the name of the girl that Ewan McGregor went home with. And apparently she was underage. Like the character, not the actress. And Ewan did not know this. So, but anyway, and you got another character who has a child with this woman, and the child dies. That's one of the tense-filled moments of the film, because they're all stuck up on drugs. I really like Trainspotting. Visually, it's directed by Danny Boyle, and visually it's a great-looking film. It's a gross film, but it really pitches what it's like to be a drug addict. I wouldn't know because I don't even smoke, you know, but it really pitches what this kind of demented lifestyle is all about and how people become enslaved to it. I give it an A-. I really like Trainspotting. Highly recommended. Film from the UK. Now, the other two films I got to talk about, they're equally great, and they both got an A+, two of the best films of the year. And one of them is one of my favorites of the year, and one of them I definitely have high praise for. I'll talk about that one first, and it is easily one of the best family films I ever seen, because I don't see a lot of family films because I don't like sitting in a theater full of kids. But that film is Harriet the Spy. Now, our four-screen theater at Kmart Plaza closed out in the end of 1996. And it was closed out in favor of a 10-screener that we currently have at our Regent Mall. And it opened, strangely enough, on Friday the 13th in December of 1996. I know, because I was across the river at the Twin Cinemas and saw Mars Attacks that night. But the following Saturday, they had Saturday the 14th, they had the grand opening. And you were able to bring a non-perishable food in and go see a film for the food bank. And they had a bunch of family films being presented. Remember Toy Story was the oldest one playing. Then, of course, I'd seen that and loved those films. But most of the films they had playing, 8 of them I had already seen. The 2 that I hadn't seen were Fly Away Home and Harriet the Spy. Now, Harriet the Spy was released in July. We didn't get it, but it was playing here in December at that grand opening, and I decided to go see it. And I'm glad I did, because, wow, Brandon Hughes directed it, and he does such a stylish job with it. And you get a very young Michelle Trachtenberg playing Harriet, who's dealing with an issue of at home with her parents. She's bullied at school. She's got a couple of friends, but she writes everything down in her little journal. And unfortunately, some stuff in her journal comes out and causes some tension with her classmates, including her friends, because of some of her observations. I related to her because she had difficulty fitting in, and she was bullied. I related to her. And she had a wonderful relationship with her nanny, played by Rosie O'Donnell. So you want to about Rosie O'Donnell, but 1996 she gave 2 tremendous performances, one in Beautiful Girls and one in Harriet the Spy. And she plays the nanny who went on a date one night, took Harriet with her, and she ended up getting fired. And this really took a bad effect on Harriet, and it affected her behavior. And Rosie had good intentions too, you know. She just couldn't leave Harriet alone by herself. But nothing raunchy happened on that date. It was just a date to the movies. But I remember one of the things I remember in the film. Number one, it's a great looking film. The neighborhood and stuff that Harriet goes through and observes, all these people she observes in their daily life, and she writes this stuff down. But there was a moment where she gets plastered in paint, almost Carrie style, at school from being bullied, and she runs home, and she fills the bathtub up with water. And I remember this shot so well. She falls face down, front forward, into the bathtub towards the camera, and you see the water, you know, the waves going up and around her and whatnot as she's floating towards the camera, sinking into the tub. And this is a film I think a lot of kids should see, at least older children, because there's a lot of great life lessons in this film. And Michelle has grown into a beautiful young woman. She's got beautiful hair. She's a stunning looking girl. It's funny, the first time I'd seen her, it was Harriet the Spy. And, you know, she went on to do Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all that stuff, but it's like, to me, she's always Harriet. And if you like family films, check out Harriet the Spy. It's an A+. It's a great time. Now, the last film I want to talk about is probably my favorite film of the year. We'll see at the end of my 1996 year in review. But that is Kingpin. And I've interviewed Vanessa Angel on the show, and I've interviewed Lin Shaye. So I've done a couple interviews from this movie. I love Kingpin. I think it's the best thing the Farrelly brothers have done, Peter and Bobby Farrelly. I love this film. It starts out in the 70s with Woody Harrelson playing Roy Munson. And Munson becoming kind of a catchphrase for bad luck. And he's a champion bowler. But he ends up getting into bad company with Bill Murray, who plays Ernie McCracken. And part of this bad company ends up with Roy losing his championship bowling hand. Let's cut ahead to 1996. Woody Harrelson, as Roy, has lost a lot of his hair. He's balding. He's got a gut coming on him. His landlord, played by Lin Shaye, is demanding rent money while putting cigarettes out in her palm. Love Lin Shaye in this movie. And he's got a hook for a hand, but he's also got a rubber hand he puts on over that. And that becomes a running joke in the film. He's down on his luck. Other characters, you got Randy Quaid playing an Amish bowler who Woody Harrelson wants to train to go into the championship. And Randy Quaid is so good in this movie because he's so naive, but his family, the Amish community, do not know that he's doing this because he's not supposed to. Woody disguises himself as an Amish to go try to recruit him. There's a funny moment in this film. This is such a dirty joke, but there's a funny moment where they're getting up to go do their chores. And Woody's like, I got up early. I took the liberty of milking your cow for you. Stubborn bastard, but come out all in one big pow. He said, we don't have a cow. We have a bull, just as Woody is drinking some of it. And then you got Vanessa Angel, who I love. She's stunning in this. And she, of course, is the girlfriend of some kind of mobster that they end up cheating on a bowling bet thing. And she runs off with them because she's tired of being abused by this guy. And Roy is very reluctant to, although Randy Quaid just loves her because he's naive and loves her. And she's got the best of intentions, but Woody don't trust her. There's a great moment where Roy tries to sneak off with Randy Quaid to try to ditch her. And she is waiting in the car. And she goes, because he's going out and he goes, shouldn't we, why are we leaving so early? And Roy goes, well, this place is contaminated. It's being surrounded by a huge cloud of... And he sees Vanessa sitting in the car and he goes, shit. And Randy Quaid goes, huge cloud of shit. I think I can smell it. And of course Vanessa goes, Roy, let's have a chat for a moment. This ends up with one of the funniest fight sequences I've ever seen. Fight Club has nothing on this. She ends up beating the living shit out of Woody Harrelson in the parking lot. And he's trying to box her boobs, and her boobs are going up and down. She knees him in the crotch. She headbutts him. He's like, gets so desperate, he's biting her leg. I love this sequence. Because, I mean, Woody Harrelson goes from natural born killers to getting his ass handed to him. But Claudia's not taking any shit off him. And, of course, they're going to end up bonding. But it's not quite so predictable because the characters are so detailed. And they're written up so well. And Bill Murray playing Ernie McCracken with the wild hair, balding wild hair, is great playing an antagonist in this movie. Kingpin did not do well at the box office. It was Farrelly Brothers' follow-up to Dumb and Dumber, which was a hit. But I would urge people to check it out because it's a masterpiece. I give Kingpin an A+. And what's great is it's not predictable. Farrelly Brothers give you a great ending without giving you what you expect. And that is what makes this film such a fucking great winner, you know? So, folks, check out Kingpin. Kingpin gets an A+. Harriet the Spy gets an A+. Both fantastic. If you're a fan of comedy, check out Kingpin, I urge you. If you're a big family film fan, check out Harriet the Spy. Trainspotting and the Frighteners get an A- apiece. Definitely check those out. And Multiplicity, the weakest of the five I'm talking about, got a C+. But a C+, I mean, that's the worst of the month. July was a great month, and Multiplicity wasn't terrible, you know. Michael Keaton's great in it. Andy McDowell's great in it. So, there you go. So, don't get Munsoned in the middle of nowhere without seeing Kingpin. I shall see you in August 1996.